Hi everybody, welcome back to another one of my gaming tutorials. So today I'd like to invite you to the macabre and the terrifying world of Zombaybeez. Zombaybeez, obviously just like normal zombies, but they're smaller and they're meaner. Okay, so let's get the show on the road. So I've gone into Greenfoot. I've created my new game here. You can see up the top here, Zombaybeez. And I have created a world here for myself. Okay, so I've just pre-made these here just to make it a bit quicker for the video. So I've made a world, and I've just got the paper tube image there. You can obviously pick anything you want. Then I've defined 3 new actors. I've defined a bullet, a hero, and a zombie, and I've picked no image for them. Okay, so there's no image defined for the Zombaybeez at all. Okay, so now that we have created our game, I can now go to my directory where the game is saved. As before, I've got a folder on my desktop called Greenfoot Projects, and obviously I save everything in there. And Greenfoot has created my game there, Zombaybeez, and here are the files that it is creating for me. So there's a couple of things I want to show you here. And the first one is in the sounds, you'll see that I've got a sound in there. Okay, so I've started gathering my resources, or in games they often call them assets. So I'm gathering the assets for my game, and the assets are obviously the sound files and the graphic files that you need to build your game. So I've used this bullet.wav before in the Killer Crayfish game. I used it there. So I've just got the same sound file, and I showed you before that where to get sound files. So if I now go to the images, you'll see that I've got a bunch more images here. Okay, and I will show you where to get these images. So if you go to this website, okay, so if you're anything like me, I love programming games, but I am terrible at graphics. Absolutely useless. So I have to rely on other people making my graphics for me. But you've got to be very careful when you build games. You need to be using graphics that are royalty free, that they have no copyright on them. So this site here, Open Game Art. So opengameart.org, and I will link this site in the description at the bottom of the video, is brilliant for finding graphics for all sorts of games. And you can just search. Okay, so for example, here I did a search. You can see here I searched for zombie, and I said I want 2D art and I want sound effects. Okay, so I limited my search to that, and I ended up with this here on the screen. Okay, so you can see here I ended up with 170 hits in 2D art and sound, and you can see that there are a number of sound files over here, and there are a number of graphic files over here. So I just picked this one up here for you just to show you, and you can see I can freely download this, and you can see there's like 12 little zombies and 12 skeletons. The reason there's 12 is that there are sort of animations here. So this one here is sort of a walking down animation. This here is a walking left animation, walking right animation, and a walking up or backwards animation. And you'll have the same for these little zombie babies here. So that there is called a sprite sheet. So when you download your graphics, they will come in on a sprite sheet like this. It's a sheet containing all the sprites you need in your game. So Open Game Art, brilliant for to get all your graphics. Now, once you've got that sprite sheet, you can either cut it up yourself, because those images have been placed very carefully on that sprite sheet. Okay, they're at exact positions, and you can cut your individual images out of there with a graphics package. So you can load up any graphics program you want and just crop the images that you want out. Otherwise, you can come to a site like this. Okay, so this is Easy GIF or Easy GIF, however you say that. I'll link to this in the description as well. And this site here, what you can do is if you come here to split and you go to sprite sheet cutter. Okay, so this is a bunch of tools that you can use on GIF images. And one of the handy ones is this sprite sheet cutter. So what you do is you just upload your sprite sheet to here. You then tell it how big your images are, or you tell it how many images are on the page, how many wide and how many are down. And this is an online piece of software that will chop up the sprite sheet for you and then send you a zip file of all the individual images. So very easy to use, and it really saves you a lot of time, especially if you're not very good with graphics. Okay, so in our game, okay, this is my sprite sheet. Okay, this is the sprite sheet that I downloaded for the Zombaybeez game, and so you can see I've got a ton of Zombaybeez on here. And each horizontal line is a sort of an animated movement, and I am actually going to make use of these 4 lines here. Okay, I'll zoom in there, and you can see that's sort of a walking up, that's a walking left, that's a walking down or towards you, and that's a walking right animation. So these ones here are similar, they're just a little bit bigger. But I decided that I would use these ones here. And so you can see that is what I've got here in my game. Here they are here. The individual images are all there. Now I did exactly the same thing for my good guy. Okay, I've kind of got this top-down image of a sort of a combat soldier. So you can see I've got 20 images for that. And those 20 images will be the animation for the hero, the good guy. So you've probably worked out by now that this game that we are going to build is a little bit more complex, when I say complex, just a bit more graphics involved than in the previous games. And obviously, I build these things and hoping that you will learn something in the process. So in this particular game, the new things that you'll learn is the more complicated graphics. You will learn about arrays. We're going to use arrays for the very first time. I'll show you how to, I'll tell you what static fields are, and we'll use static fields. We'll use constants, okay, and we'll also end up using the switch statement. So a couple of new things that you will encounter during this game. So let's get on. Right, so first things first, like I said, I've created all my actors in my world. So I'm going to start building out, and I'm going to start off with the hero. So I'm going to generate my hero first. Let me just make this a little bit bigger so you can see a bit more of it. Excellent. Okay, so I've done a bit of the coding here already. So I'm just going to copy this in. Okay, so here is my first declaration. So I'm just going to go here and I'm just going to say declare static fields. Right. So let me just tell you what static fields are. So a static field is a variable or a field that belongs to the class more than the object. So you'll remember that the purpose of a class is to create objects. So if I define a field as being static, it means that there will be one copy of that variable, just one copy, and all objects will use that one copy. So that's the key. So there's just one copy of that variable or that field, and all objects created in the class will use that one single variable. So I can do that here because what I've done is this is the images. Okay, so if I happen to make more heroes, they will all use the same set of images. So I can safely make this a static field. Okay, so private we've done before, static. Final. Okay, so this is something new that we're encountering right now. You've not seen me use this before. So final means that we're going to make this variable. It's not going to be a variable, but it's going to be a constant, okay, which means we are going to give it a value now here at this initial stage, and we cannot change it. Okay, so it's in programming we call that immutable. It's a variable that will never vary, hence its name constant. So that keyword final says that we are now declaring a constant. Okay. Okay, so the next thing is, what type of constant are we going to declare? Well, it's going to be a Greenfoot image, okay, because we're building the image for the guy. So this is the images that we're going to use, and that is going to be the type of constant that we are declaring. Now, here's something new that you will not have seen before. Okay, there's an open square bracket, closed square bracket. Okay, so now we are telling Java that we are declaring an array. Okay, so an array you can think of as a box of variables. So before, when we defined, say, an integer, that variable held one value, just a single integer. But here we are declaring an array, and you can think of it as a box of a box of variables. Okay, each variable we can address it. Okay, it has what they call an index. And arrays in Java are a little bit limiting, but we are going to use one here. So there I'm saying I'm going to create an array right there. And here is the name, okay, ARRIMG, array of images. Now the next thing you'll notice here is I've made it all caps. Now that is because in Java, the convention for a constant, because I've said final here, this is a constant. And the convention in Java is that constants are in all capitals, just like just like we have class names start with capital letters and methods start with lowercase letters. Constants are in all caps. So there we go. Private static final Greenfoot image array, and that's its name. Now I'm going to say equals. And now I'm going to define my array. I'm going to give my array values right here. Okay, so I've got squiggly brackets, and I say the first entry in my array is a new Greenfoot image, and that's the name of the file, goodguy0.png. Okay, then I've got a new Greenfoot image, goodguy1, goodguy2, and so you can see I put 20 elements. Okay, so I've created an array of 20 elements called array image. Okay, so you'll get this as we're going along. So the next thing I want to do is I'm going to create another integer, and this one we're going to call frame rate. This is another static variable called frame rate, and I'm going to give it an initial value, or I'm going to give it a value of 2. Okay, so when we make constants, we give the constant a value when we define it. So when we declare the constant, we give it a value, and remember that value cannot be changed. Okay, that value cannot be changed. Now this constant we're using, our frame rate, that's going to be the number of ticks between our animation. That is why we can create it as a static, because all objects, all heroes that we create will use that same value. Okay, so now I'm going to declare my instance variables. Okay, so above I declared my static variables. Those are variables that belong to the class. Now I'm going to declare my instance variables. These are the variables that belong to each instance of a class. Okay, and remember, an instance of a class is an object. So these here are, each object will have its own set of these variables. Okay, and that's because each object may want to change these. Okay, for example, I'm declaring speed here. During the game, I might want to change that speed. Okay, and each hero might have to have its own speed. We don't want them. We might not want them all working at the same speed. So I'm making these instance variables. The next one is a frame number. Okay, this is when we are doing the animation. This will be as we are looping through the different frames. This will keep this here will keep a check on which frame we are currently on. And once again, we make that an instance variable because we might want the heroes to animate slightly differently. So each hero must have its own copy. And then we have, for the very same reason, a tick counter. Right, perfect. So there are my variables, my instance variables, my static variables are defined. So now we will go on to, as we normally do, we'll go and make a constructor. So public hero, remember the name must exactly match how we've typed the class. And we'll give it a speed of 2. Okay, this hero here, we'll start him off with a speed of 2. And now I need to bring in the image. So we need to set an image, okay, for our hero. So we're going to say Greenfoot image. We're going to give it a name, img. So we're declaring a new image. Okay, I'm declaring a new variable here of that type. And what am I going to set it equal to? Well, I'm going to go and fetch an image from my array. Okay, remember up top here, I've got this array of images here. So ARR IMG element 0 is this. So this first image, that's the one I'm going to go and fetch. You can see I put the index in square brackets. Okay, so I've fetched an image and I've dumped that image into this variable, this new IMG variable. Now, because this is an object, okay, it's a Greenfoot image object, it has methods. And one of the methods is scale. That allows me to change the size. The reason being is that these images here in the array are too big. Okay, I want to scale them down a little bit. So I'm going to say set image. Okay, and I'm going to set the image to my newly scaled down version. So there I go and fetch an image, scale it down, and then set my hero image to be the scaled down version. So there's my constructor. It's done. So let's move across to my world. Let's dump a hero onto the screen and let's see what he looks like. Okay, so I'm going to go up top here. I'm going to save, declare my variables here. We'll call them fields, same name. Now I'm going to declare a variable for my hero, okay, and he is of type hero. Okay, so that's his type. He's a hero. I'm going to give him a name. We'll call him Bob because Bob sounds like he could be a cold-blooded killer. And we're going to say new hero. So there we go. We have made a variable called hero, a variable called Bob of type hero, and we have created a hero and stuck it in there. So I'm going to go down here, and as I usually do, I'm going to make my prepare method. Prepares world for first use. So I'm going to go private. It's void because it doesn't return anything. Prepare. Right, so inside of my prepare method, I'm now going to save insert my hero. So I want to put my hero on the screen. So I'm going to say add object. Okay, now remember, add object needs 3 parameters. The first parameter is the name of the object that I want to, or the object that I want to put in. In my case, it's Bob. Okay, so I want to place Bob on the screen. Again, where do I want to put him? Well, I want to put him in the middle of the screen. So I'm going to say get width. That will return the width of however big I've made the screen. And I'm going to say get height. So I'm going to divide each by 2. So that'll put him halfway across and halfway down. And that'll place him into the screen. Okay. Now, obviously here, I must run my prepare method inside of my constructor. So let's compile that. Let's have a look. Yes, there I go. Okay, so my hero is placed into the screen. Excellent. Okay, so let's go back to the hero and let's start doing some other things for him. Let us animate him. Okay, so let's go back to the hero and let's do the animation for the hero. So I'm just going to go underneath here and I'm going to write a new method called animate. Animates the hero object. Okay, so it's going to be private. It's going to be void because it's not going to return anything. Animate. And now we're going to say, now what we need to do is every second tick, because if I animate him every single tick, it's going to animate him far too fast. Okay, so I'm actually going to animate him every second time. So here we go. I'm going to go frame number plus plus. So I'm just going to increment on the, well, before I do that, sorry, I need to put some logic in here first. So we're going to say, right, if the tick counter, okay, so in the act method, we're going to make sure that this, or make sure this tick counter goes up every time. So if that is bigger than the frame rate, remember, you can pause here at any time. Just pause here at any time. If you don't understand anything, and just back it up a bit. Okay, we need to swap in the next image. Right, so if the tick count is more than the frame rate, okay, then what we need to do is we need to step up the frame number. Okay, remember this is keeping track of which frame is currently being displayed. Okay, so we need to increment that up a bit. We get up to the next frame. Right, then we're going to say if the frame number is greater than 19, okay, because remember we've only got 20 images, then we want to reset the frame number back to 0. Okay, so if, okay, that's probably the first time you see me do that in one line, okay, because I've only got one statement in my if. Inside of my if, I'm not putting squiggly brackets around it. I'm doing it in one line. Okay, so I need to bring in the next frame. So I'm going to say Greenfoot. In fact, what I'm going to do, just to save some time, is I'm just going to copy it from here because it's exactly the same. Okay, so I'm going to go and get another image, but obviously I'm not going to get image 0. I'm going to get image frame number. So that will step through the images one by one. Okay, and then I can reset my tick counter back to 0. And then outside of the if, okay, I need to bump up my tick counter. Okay, so that will increase the tick counter, and if the tick counter is more than 2, it will swap in a new frame, and it will also step through the frames. Okay, so here in the act method, I'm going to say animate, just so that the animate runs. Let's compile that. Let's run that. Okay, and you can see my soldier is kind of a little bit animated there. Okay, it's running through the 20 frames, and he is animated. Great. So we're on the track here. So the next thing I want to do is I want to move my hero. Okay, I need to be able to move him around the screen. So I'm going to write a method here called move hero. Okay, moves the hero. Okay, now I'm going to make this a bit of an unusual movement. Okay, you might not have seen this before either. What I'm going to make him do is I'm going to make him always travel towards the mouse. It's a bit unusual and can look quite cool. Okay, so I'm going to say if Greenfoot dot get mouse info. Okay, you have seen us use that before. Okay, so Greenfoot will continuously check for when it runs this mouse info. Okay, if something's happened with the mouse, if the mouse is inside of the play area, it will return an object. If it's outside of the play area, it will return null, no object. Okay, so we only want the mouse to be chased when it's inside of the screen. So if the value of get mouse info, so get mouse info is going to return an object of mouse information. If the mouse is outside of the screen, it doesn't return anything, so it is null. Okay, so here's what I want to happen. I'm going to use the turn towards method. Okay, that is an actor method, a built-in actor method. So turn towards, and what do I want to turn towards? Well, I want to turn towards the mouse. Okay, well, I want to turn towards where the mouse is. That's where I want to go to. And the way I do that is by saying Greenfoot dot get mouse info. Okay, so I'm running the get mouse info, and inside the get mouse info there's this get x method. Okay, so we can get x. This is inside of the mouse info object. Okay, remember, get mouse info returns a mouse info object. One of the methods inside of mouse info is get x. So I can say that, and then I can say Greenfoot dot get mouse info dot get y. Okay, so I'm going to turn towards that point on the screen, wherever the mouse cursor is. The good guy, the hero, will point towards the mouse cursor. Then what I want him to do? Well, I want him to move by whatever I set speed to. Okay, so let's put that now into the act method here called move hero. And let's compile that. Okay, now when I run, okay, as soon as I put my mouse inside the screen, my hero should move towards the mouse. So that's quite a nice effect, I think. Okay, so instead of us steering him with the cursor keys, we're going to actually steer him with the mouse. And you'll see as the mouse moves outside of the display area, then I've got, and mouse info is then null, so he stops moving. Excellent. So we are well on the track here. So just a couple more things I want to do, and then I'll finish off this part here, and then we'll have a second part. Okay, so let's go back to our program. Now I know that when my program is running, okay, I know this because I've planned this out earlier. Okay, I'm going to need some information. Remember, we have spoken before how different objects do not know about other objects. Okay, and it's like that by design. So if we need to have special methods, okay, called getters, where we can actually get information about a particular object. So I'm going to write a getter here called get hero rotation. It's a method that I will be able to call from outside that will tell me which direction the hero is facing. And the reason I want that, and you'll see in part 2, is when I do the bullet. Okay, the bullet must shoot in the same direction that the hero is facing. So I need to be able to get that information. Okay, so I'm going to make it a public. Okay, it's not private, it's public, because I'm going to call it from outside of this class. Okay, public, it's an integer, and I'm going to say get hero rotation. Okay, and this time, because it's an integer, it now needs to return. Okay, we need to have a return statement. And what's it going to return? Well, I'm just going to do a get rotation. I'm going to do a get rotation on the hero, and whatever his heading is, that will be returned. Okay, so get rotation gives us an integer, and I'm going to return that. So that's what I'm going to send back. And the next thing I need to know is I need another getter here, which will be get the hero's X position. Okay, so this will get his X position. So same thing. Okay, it's a getter, so it's public. It's also going to return an integer, and it'll be get hero X. Okay. So because it's an integer, we have to return an integer. And what I'm going to return? Well, I'm just going to check his X value. Okay, so I'm going to run the get X in this actor, and I'm just going to return that value. Perfect. Okay, and then I need a get hero Y. Okay, so it's going to be a get hero Y, same sort of thing, public. It's going to be an integer, get hero Y, and it's returning an integer. So we say return, and what are we returning? Well, we're returning the hero's current his Y position. Okay, so I'm just going to compile that. Okay, I've got a clean compile, and that's as far as I'm going to go for this part. In the second part, we will do the bullet, and we will do the Zombaybeez. So please come back.